Are we enslaved to the norm? Are we? Are we now? That's what I want here to talk to. Some pretty profound stuff. This is 2020. We're in mid-November here. And I did a show on essentialism, and I wanted to have my own thoughts, my own ideas on what essentialism is. Because out of all things that I've looked for, essentialism, there's minimalism and things like that for people who need a context where I'm coming from here. I wanted to explore it for myself, and will continue to, but I dipped in and into essentialism, and it's the Essential, What's Essential podcast. Can't remember the dude's name, but he wrote a book, I guess. He's like basically the person, I think, who's invented it or found it or what. I don't know. But this is very profound. This is what I want to talk to you guys today, of how people are making more money by just doing the essential things. Doesn't this make sense? People are able to do more. I want to talk about some personal experiences, how I was able to do things that I wanted to do, recreation. Basically, I think this whole premise of the show and my entire life is on this, focusing on just essential things and not things that aren't. So that's the show, guys. Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of Up and Ended. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what this show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. I think I speak too fast sometimes. I'm going to try working on going slower. There's at the bottom, you guys can email me and let me know how well I'm doing for you guys. And if you guys have any questions about any of the shows or anything, there's an email down there. Send me an information. Send me what your thoughts are. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, middle finger. I don't give a shit. Damn it. And this is the Potty Mouth Podcast. Just gave it away. And also, on my work commutes, I have long hour drives, so that's the background noise is my personal mobile studio, my F-350 96 pickup truck, which is entirely paid for, and it's completely essential to my life because it serves many, many things, as I've spoken. I just really, really love my truck. I don't want to make it about my truck, but man, I can live in my truck if I wanted to. I could surf in my, I don't know, recreationally, for work. As I'm driving right now, it serves so much. And I don't know. But let's get into it here. So, the solo journey. I'm on a complete solo journey. I have no references. I really have nothing. I think this is essential. I'm hoping to learn a lot. Maybe I'll buy this guy's book. Maybe I could do a review on it. But I'm on a solo journey. And it was interesting because in this podcast, the people said the same thing, like that people thought different of them, like family members, friends, and things like that. It's looking like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And then what really opened up my eyes was the solo, when they did this in business. But I want to finish off here on the solo. It's a very strange, it's like no man's land. There's no manuals, there's no nothing other than the successes I think that we get. And as a group, how many groups are successful? And most groups, most businesses, I think, are ran by an elite owner who profits off a lot of people who are not intelligent enough to know, or I think that don't want to go through all the headaches and hassles of putting out fires and doing all the hard work of making money for somebody else, basically. Or there's usually a leader of some sort of group, whether it's a nonprofit or something, doing something. But how many of those are successfully sustainable? Do they last for a very long time? Seems like very, very few. And in the eco villages and the intentional communities, meaning a bunch of people that get together to possibly own land, work together as a tribe to lessen the load on each other. This is one thing that I don't discount in my life. I just don't see. I see a lot of them not really working out too well, not very planned out very well. But a lot of them fail, and they say that the majority of these communities, like new businesses, will fail within the first year to 2 years. So on a solo journey, I think that we're not going, we're going against the norm. And the fun part is when you live a life like I have and others, which I'm learning by doing things out of your own imagination and trying to tweak things around and getting success in it, getting results. It becomes addicting. And I think that when I look around me right now in 2020, I think there's a lot of failures. I want to do a podcast about that, about how the symbiosis of money, which I'm noticing, we may have a trucker strike that's going to go on here in the next week, at least here in California. I think it's all over the United States. That stops the movement of things that we can pay for. That means maybe you got the money, but there's nothing for you to buy anymore. You see where I'm going with all this? How essential are these things in our lives, and what are we focusing on, and what are we doing as a whole, as a group? And we got all of these problems. So the point I kind of just want to make is that we as a nation, as a giant group of people, having to feed these people, keep them busy and not destroy the environment, I think it's quite apparent that everything's starting to fall apart. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that a lot of good's coming out of this thing. But look at how business has changed, how education has changed. Basically everything, almost everything on the way we've done things, the old ways, the norm, is starting to crumble and fall away. And I think that in order for us to survive this crumbling of the norm, which is, what did they say? They're even saying it, the new normal. You get it? You hearing that? I think we need to start focusing more on what's essential in our lives. What do we got that we can actually apply in our lives to make things better? And I think that the biggest tool is for us, as the last podcast, not giving a shit, not giving a fuck what anybody thinks about you, but not giving a fuck about what the norm is. What is the norm? So let's move in to get you guys a little excited here. I've experienced this myself, and on this podcast, they called it the 4-day work week. So this gentleman who's running a business read this guy's book, who did the What's Essential podcast. Can't remember his name, but read the book and was inspired, and then started applying this towards his job, towards the monetary system, which that's what I do with everything I learn and everything for freedom and balance. How could we actually make more money? And so this is what happened. He gave the book to all of his employees, had them read it so they understand where he's coming from, got a bunch of ideas from them and said, how can we make this work? And here's the thing, he said. They found that they can actually make more money by focusing on what's essential. And basically what that meant is they said, well, how profitable was it for all of us to stop work production and have a meeting? We could have just kept the work production going and just kind of just focused on exactly what was essential, and maybe sent this through an email and just tweaking things around so things keep moving. Then in fact, what was interesting is he said, a lot of us, the norm is people just going to work. And a lot of you who have listened to my podcast there, how to make more money as an entrepreneur, how to make more money as a laborer, as a 9-to-5 blue-collar worker, was focusing more on your skill set and things, and looking at the norm, how basically the philosophy of that was, do not wake up in the morning to go to work. Wake up in the morning to make money. Now, I'm not all about money, and I'm not against money. I love money. I think money's fantastic, and I think it's necessary in our current lifestyle design. But the point I look at, it's not just money, it's results and stuff. Maybe it's you gardening and saving grain for the winter. Whatever, your happiness, your spirituality. If we stop focusing on the stuff that's not essential, start focusing what's on essential, on the goals, we therefore start propelling ourselves into a better area. So getting back to the story with this guy in business, the 4-day work week, what happened is, from what I understood, if it was correctly, is that his employees now didn't work 5 days a week, they worked 4 days a week. And guess what? They made the exact same pay, because they sat down and said, look, if we stop doing all this mundane other bullshit here, we could actually make more money than what we're making right now. Does that make sense to you? And now, as an incentive, why don't we all work just 4 days a week instead of 5? So that way we could be home with our families, have a 3-day weekend. I did this with my workers, and from what I saw in the production, it could have been. I'm going to go ahead and tell the story. I've got a few for you guys as far as with money. And again, when I start talking about business, think about running your life like a business, your spirituality, whatever it is that you're doing, your goals, your art, whatever it is. But what I looked at is, I told my guys, why don't we work 4 10-hour days? Because we were working in Los Angeles, lots of traffic. Back then I was driving like 2 hours one way and about 3 hours home, like at least 4 hours of driving per day, more like probably like 5 of my life just sloughing off. But the money was fantastic. I did not like my life back then, but it's how I got ahead in life until I learned different stuff, which you guys will hear riddled in the show. But my guys were super happy. It wasn't summer, doing constructions, my business, but I had all my employees work 10 hours from Monday through Thursday, and they got to take off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And what I wanted to do with them, but they didn't, like this gentleman did in this 4-hour workday, work week, was I told them what I wanted. My goal was exactly that: was why don't you guys work 8 hours? Let's do 8 hours a day. Why don't you guys work actually harder, so that I'll pay you the exact same amount of money, but you get instead of getting 5 days of pay or 5 days of labor, we're going to give you 5 days of money in 4 days. How does that sound? But what I need from you guys is to understand everything that I've got going on here, so I don't have to go and micromanage every single little thing and make sure everything's done right. Because if I don't have to do that, I can go sell more work and make more money, and then we're all making more money in a shorter amount of time. So you see that are we enslaved to the norm? But if we start thinking of things in this way, how different it is. You know, I've got a ridiculous I got a ridiculous story here, but let me finish mine. So I'll give you guys another example. When I was actually a blue-collar worker, a laborer, and I was working for this person who had his ways of doing things. And basically, we're installing roofing shingles, right? So what happens is you got to be bent over, and you got this hose with this pneumatic nailer, and they got these bundles of these shingles that are they're wrapped in plastic. You got to cut them, separate them. It gets warm, and they all stick to each other. So you got to reach over every single time to grab one. You know, you can't. There's no room to really put a table or anything there. So I started looking at the whole thing, going, well, this is the norm. How can I change this? So I told my boss, I says, look, I'm going to utilize this guy who's just learning, who's putting on barely enough shingles in a day to really make his money, and I'm going to have him work with me, and I'll give him some of my piecework, because we're getting paid by piecework, I should tell you guys, by how much we put on. So this is a friend of mine who we both love to surf, and we're right there by the beach. There's perfect waves that day. And I just sat down and told him, let's do an experiment today. So what you're going to do is you're going to get on your hands and knees, and you're going to open up all these bundles. You're going to pre-open like 5 of them. I've been doing this shit since I was 13 years old, so I was able to, I'm able to snap these shingles together so fast. So what I told him is, you only put on, say, 4 to 5 squares per day. It's what they call it in roofing. And I says, why don't you chuck me these shingles and just work super fast? And I guarantee you, I take whatever's left over, and I'll give you your 5, but you're going to make that in like half the time. And he said, and I said, after that, after we're done, you get your 5, I get what I need. Let's leave this fucking job early and go surf. Told my boss this. I says, okay, if we put on X amount of this, and I know how much money we're making you, will you be happy and content with that? Because we want to leave early. He says, I don't give a shit what you guys do, as long as it's put on right, and as long as you're able to do what you say you're able to do. So lo and behold, I have him chucking me these things, and it's nonstop. I'm over there just ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. As fast as he can chuck them, I can lay these things. We did in about 4 hours. I made more money than I did working by myself. He made his money in half the time, and we were both laughing about it, sitting out in the middle of the ocean, surfing some good waves, and having a blast. Are we stuck in the norm? Like, what the hell is going on here? Why can't we start thinking of things different and look at in business? For those of you who are business owners, and again, think about you in your life. Are you stuck doing normal things and you don't even know why? And what's the ROI? What's the payoff on these things? And we continue to just keep going and going and going and going and not making it. So I gave you guys those examples right there. There's a lot of stuff that I do, when I want to stay healthy, right? I just did it right now. I've got, I made myself some juice, right? I want to stay eating healthy. I'm traveling right now for my business all the way from some Sunnyside, San Diego to Los Angeles, the armpit of the world. But I'm doing this because there's some super big cash, big money for me out there, and it's worth the job. But I'm not exercising because I'm spending my time driving. I'm not eating healthy. I go out to eat because been living in hotels, But one thing I do is I go and I make myself raw vegetable juices. And why do I do stuff like this? Yesterday was Sunday. Today is Monday when I'm actually broadcasting. This is the we're coming into the 3rd week of November of 2020, if anybody needs a time reference. But I want to get the salad in me and raw vegetables. I know that it's healthy. So what do? I made a big giant, I made about a gallon of just fresh squeezed ginger with lemon, tomato, carrot, cucumber, celery, and some other things in there. Some green apples, and put some sea salt in there to help preserve the juice so it doesn't go bad, and also the lemon juice. And what this serves for me is that a quart of this juice is like eating a giant salad. So now I can go eat the fast foods, which I still try to eat healthy. Actually, I'm full of shit. I've been eating tom kha kai and pad thai noodles, like Thai food and stuff. Oh my God. Since the company's paying for it, I'm like, why the hell not? But yeah, balancing this all out, I get exercise working in the construction jobs I do, so I don't feel too bad about that. But the food I always try to keep. So look at the norm. Look at the norm. And I make all this juice a whole gallon. So most people say, well, I don't have the money to eat salad and healthy, and I don't have the time. You have a whole entire salad inside of a jar that's already almost pre-digested for you. And I know there's some debate on sugars and stuff like that. Drinking raw juice is healthy for you guys. It's a fact. Gerson therapy, they make juice out of fruits and vegetables, and they have a 95% success rate of healing people from asthma, I believe it is, cancer, diabetes. So I think that we should heed somebody who's got a 95% success rate of doing things like that. So that's the way I cheat. And it's against the norm of doing one thing every day, making stuff fresh, you know. And just, I don't know how to explain that otherwise than, dude, get away from the norm and start thinking of your life different. I think that's what I wanted to say with that experiment, of that way of my life, that portion, is like we just keep doing everything different. We start focusing more on essentialism, our health, our happiness, our money, our joy, our children, our spirituality, you know, our exercise and expanding in life, and our dreams, I think, is one of the most important. One of the messages I kind of just want to tell you guys, like out of the norm here, it's like I told my daughter, it just really hit me, was an adult told her, one of a family members was like, wow, you are really smart and you're just out there. And it's really cool that you're just not scared and like, and it says, because you're yourself, because you're you. And I says, notice that how, she said, he got really quiet and it was awkward. And then he said, well, take care. And he walked away. And I told her, I says, out of the norm, you spoke out of the norm. You were just you, being you. Completely honest, completely open. And I said, you know, sometimes before, I'd say fuck money, fuck education, all these things. Learn who you are first. Learn learn how you want to be you. Learn what you want to be you. And go out there and grab that shit. Learn to settle, as I say, and be birthed inside yourself. That's like a job all inside of itself. I think that's, if you really think about that, I think a lot of the problems in people's lives is that they don't know how to be themselves. They don't know them. And isn't that just as an important job out of the norm as, you know, as money, learning science, technology, and advancements and things to learn, hey, who am I? You know, there's a cool cartoon called Rango you guys should watch. I think a lot of it was about that. But yeah, I wanted to read you guys this pathetic story that I heard here, where they tried to keep people in isolation as a science experiment. And since I'm bumper to bumper traffic here, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you guys. It's a lot easier to read. So basically, to recap, what these researchers did, these scientists, was they paid people to experiment, to sit by themselves. And what they found is people, like, give me your cell phone, your watch, everything, and just go sit in this dull, blank room for like 15 minutes. And I want you to tell me what your experience was. And a lot of people were just like, dude, get me the fuck out of here. Give me my phone, my keys, everything. I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. So they did all these multiple types of experiments. And one of them, so I'll start reading. The researchers then decided to take the experiment a step further. For 15 minutes, the team left participants alone in a lab room in which they could push a button and shock themselves if they wanted to. The results were startling. Even though all participants had previously stated that they would rather pay to avoid being shocked with electricity, they found 67% of men and 25% of women chose to inflict the pain on themselves rather than just sit there and quietly and think. The team reports online today in Science. So that's where you can find it. That's my last note for this thing. But people wanted to inflict pain on themselves out of boredom. A lot of people wanted to pay to not get shocked. People just wanted to get the hell out of that room and couldn't take it. I, for one, look at the norm as, this is screwed up. It's completely fucked up. Just off that story right there. What would I expect? There was somebody asked me one day, what do you want of me? What do you expect of me? Like, what the hell's going on? And I thought that was a very interesting question. What do you expect? First, what do you expect of yourself? What do you expect of others? And what I expect out of others is to be able to take some time for themselves and to grow, to think for themselves, to question the norm, And to be able to, if someone asked me, could I pay you to sit in a room and just think and be quiet? Oh my God. It's like some of the times I wish for. Some of the best times of my life, the things I look forward to, is being alone with my own mind so I can conjure up things of how I want to do, play things out. I think I might be fucked up a little bit, kind of maybe ADHD, or I don't even know what these things are. But I have a lot of, my mind never stops. I always keep thinking, but I see everything in movies. I can actually design things in my mind. And the point of this is when I'm alone, when it's quiet and there's no distractions, I'm able to sit and just kind of reflect on things, such as the show notes for this show, of looking at the norm. Like, are we enslaved to the norm? When I heard this podcast of Essentialist, What's Essential, and listening to this guy talk about his business and reflecting on the stories I gave you on my business, and when I think about my life and I look at other people and I watch them, there is a guy by the name of Sadhguru. He's an Indian, I don't know if he calls himself a guru or something, but he's a very intelligent guy. And actually it was my mom, the Mama Strega, who I've had on the show, was telling me that he was saying, notice, he'll watch people. And he's like, notice how many movements you make that are completely unnecessary. And I thought that was interesting because that's one of the tactics for the way I make money when I work. I get into a flow. There's a beautiful documentary called Happy People, I think it was. And there was a cook, a few people, and they said they like it. There's a flow that happens. So when this guy's cooking hash browns and eggs and stuff, he just gets in like this dance thing, this flow where he's like, psh, he completely stops thinking about everything, and I believe gets in a sort of meditative state by doing his thing, getting his dance. So what I put together with this is the same thing like this guy Sadhguru says. Notice how many useless movements that you make. And when I'm working out, when I'm working on construction jobs, when I'm fixing things, like I said, when I go up the ladder, I always take something with me. When I go down the ladder, I take something with me. When I do my garden, sometimes I have about an acre, which I'm working on. Always carry a bucket of tools with you, and then carry it back, put everything back to where it was, make everything useful, make every move count, as they do in martial arts and Japanese, I think, philosophy, down to pouring a cup of tea. Make it beautiful and make it and perfect it. And when we look at this norm, as I say, cracking around, the cracks are starting to show. If we all sat quietly, that's what I would want from you guys. Just sit quietly and look at this whole picture. Look at yourself, look at others, look around you at not just the people, the things, but how nature moves, how nature operates. There's such a thing as bioengineering, and we can learn lessons from nature, which I forgot. I need to put those up. I love being quiet, watching nature, watching things happen, the way things grow, the way animals migrate, studying out some of these beautiful documentaries that you can get for free on YouTube, and they'll show you the life of something that you think is so simple like ants, and then you go, what the fuck are you even talking about? They got a whole entire network. There's one where I seen where they poured cement down their holes and then excavated it, and it turned out to be this huge thing where there was food storage, and I think like air holes for air conditioning and heating, and like cemeteries and places where they'd herd aphids to birthplaces and stuff. It's just immaculate, and it's crazy. And that comes from taking the time to be quiet and not just watching outside the norm, watching what these ants are doing and go, these ants are actually teaching me something. The bees are teaching you something. You can learn lessons from nature, which bioengineering has done. That's where solar panels came from. I think it was from the eye of some certain bug where it lets in some sort of UV light, but keeps out the others. And they designed these solar panel skins, these tops, this glass after this bug's eyeball. They learned how to stop a speed train from making so much noise by putting a albatross, I think, or some shit in a fish, learning the aerodynamics of it and applying that towards physics. So, and all of these things come from going against the norm. That's how new things are born, right? But also the quiet time. Why would you choose to inflict pain on yourself rather than to perfect yourself, to look at things and start designing things? I think that's the show, man. I don't even know how much more to say on that one. Are we slaves to the norm? I would say yes, we are. There's a lot of things that that we're stuck doing. We need to pay taxes. We need to do a lot of it. We need to make money. We can't survive without money. Although I think we're going to get shook in here in 2020. All these truckers go on strike. But I've got some tricks up my sleeve for you guys on that. But we are enslaved to the norm. But do we have to be? No, we don't. And we need to look at tools. We need to be quiet. We need to just shut up for a little while sometimes and start actually listening to what other people say, watching what other people do. Because this shit's going to hit the fan. A lot of people who are loud and talking, I think, that say that this is the absolute, this is the way things actually are, and then things fail. Science, I think, has a big, big fucking problem with that. We now know, we now know, what we thought we knew, we now know this. And it continues to go on and on and on as new things are found. And I think a lot of us philosophers, a lot of us people who get out that are yelling. I hope that my energy is more of like an open, playful energy. As I say, I can't wait to evolve. I've said this on the show too. If you're not evolving and changing things, you're not actually really learning. Some things are for certain. Some things are, I think, pretty legitimately absolute, but we got to work within the confines, and we need to get out of this norm, though. We need to get out of this norm and start living our lives for what works for us, because there is no normal for everybody. Everybody does shit different. Everybody thinks things different. There's no way that I can help you with all the things that I do. I could give you examples of philosophies, and hopefully you sit quiet instead of shocking yourself, inflicting pain on yourselves like this experiment did, and start actually observing. Because what I wanted to finish up with that is that all these loudmouths and all these people come out, sooner or later they're probably going to look like shit. And you'll know it in yourself. If you made some decisions and you stuck with it and you're like, no, this is it and I'm stubborn. Things change, as we have things changing right now from the norm to the new norm. And if you're stuck in the old norm, you're going to look pretty fucking stupid. So open yourselves up. We're not here to beat each other up. Evolve with the times and evolve with yourself. And know that I care about every single one of you. I felt really good joy from hugging that woman on the roof and going out from the norm. I don't know if I said that on this particular podcast, on this show, but did some really good stuff, some stuff out of the norm, and it felt really good. I think that was in the last podcast, but just hugged the lady on the roof and gave her a free job. Told her, look, I'm not even going to charge you, and I'm going to teach you how to fix this stuff, and I left. And that's the good stuff that in life, and I hope, like this show, I'm giving all this stuff for free, and I hope that it helps you guys out. Let me know if it does. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd love to base the show on what you guys want, what you guys think. I think that we're building a foundation here. I think that it's alternative lifestyle design is what it appears to be. I kind of don't know where it's going. I'm kind of letting the chips just fall where they go, find out what works for you guys, what doesn't. But pretty much this lifestyle design, alternative lifestyle design is what I like to coin, because it's something different. It's an alternative to the norm from what we got. How can we apply these things, and are we getting results? And yes, we are. Go back and listen to a couple of my shows. I made enough money for 2021 already in 2020. It's in the bag, meaning all my cell phone, my gas, my food, everything's already paid for. I've got 2 years supply of emergency funds. My life is changing. I've been able to take mini retirements, meaning I work only 8 to 9 months out of the year, take off 3 to 4, do whatever the fuck I want with my kids, go traveling, go experience things. Life is good. Life keeps getting better every single year. This is probably the best year I've had as of yet. And that's what I want for you guys. And it's from thinking outside the norm. So that's the show, guys. You can check it out on YouTube. All these podcasts I put on YouTube. It's TikTok, Instagram, private Facebook group, and of course where the podcasts are all meet, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and it's all at Up and In It. We don't have a website, but as soon as I get some followers and things start picking up here, maybe I will, to give you guys some extra treats and stuff like that. But as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it, my friends.